You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome in George Graves III, owner of the Graves firm in Atlanta, focusing on personal injury, criminal law, and business law. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you. Nice to finally, have you on the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So welcome in. We're going to talk about your story. It's an interesting one, and we appreciate it. We appreciate you sharing with the Lawyer Stories community.
Absolutely.
So we haven't featured you yet. It's coming up, and by the time the show airs, your feature will be up. You will have shared your story with the Lawyer Stories community. So tell us about being 12 years old and knowing that you wanted to be a lawyer. Like, was there a moment? I know we're going to get to high school, and tell us about like a specific moment. Was there a moment, or was it just your dad, like following your dad, him taking you to court?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was from following my father. I had a few moments, but my earliest memories, my dad was an FBI agent for 25 years, mostly in New Jersey, in Newark,
Right.
New Jersey.
Right.
So I really just grew up watching him get up really early in the morning, throw on a nice suit. He was always leave the house smelling like really, really nice cologne. I
That's
always
great.
remember that. And he would go out there and work really hard, come home late at night.
Yeah.
And that just really inspired me. I do have some memories where, as a kid, I'm not even really sure what age, but he would take me into these courtrooms when I was really young. Definitely the only kid there, and he would place me in the back, and I would just sit in the back of the courtrooms in Newark, New Jersey, and really just observe all the action as a young kid. And it really just inspired me. I mean, anytime you have, a parent and, that you look up to, there is a degree of wanting to kind of follow in those footsteps. And while I didn't go into the FBI, I did, walk along a similar path going into law. And that's just always just something that I wanted to do. And as a kid, I do remember specific moments. I wanted a trampoline more than anything as a kid.
Yep.
That was my thing. I used to love to flip. I was really athletic and involved in a lot of sports. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I remember I wanted this trampoline so bad, but my parents weren't going for it. They were, oh, what if you jump in the air and land on your neck and break something? Or
yeah, I have two young kids, so I get it. I kind of get what your parents are saying. I got two little ones now, man, and Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I understand. I definitely understand now. At the time, when we all have those things, whether it's a bike or a video game or gaming cards, but there's nothing more in the world that I wanted more than a trampoline. And but they weren't going for it. And I remember maybe at around maybe like 9 or 10. I created this whole PowerPoint presentation and try to persuade them and convince them to get this trampoline.
Okay.
And it had all these animations and all these things, and I just laid it out for them and put it out there for them, and all these different factors. And well, look at this, it shows that it's good for you, as far as exercise.
Right.
We can pay for it during doing this. These are the benefits.
I love that.
Health benefits. I mean, I laid it out there and put everything I could to persuade them. And I think then they kind of knew that, he had a way of, putting forth an argument using his intellect and using his, persuasive ways. And I remember they always just said that really stood out to them that I
That's
put on.
amazing. Did you have you probably had fun though too, right? Putting together the whole argument, like regardless, notwithstanding getting the whole the whole trampoline. Did you end up getting the trampoline?
I did end up getting a
Okay,
trampoline.
so but did you have fun like putting together the whole slideshow and all
I
that?
did, I did.
Yeah,
I
you
did. It was
liked it.
cool. It was cool.
Yeah, and then you went up there and you presented it. You said you were what, 10 years old?
Yeah, I was about 10 years
So do
old.
you think you're how old were you when your dad would bring you to court and put you like out back to
I may have been around that same age.
yeah.
Maybe I would say between about 9 and 12.
Okay. So do you think there was any connection between what you saw in court and you wanting to do some sort of a presentation with with the trampoline that was like your big argument and then you state the positive facts and that sort of thing?
I did. Yeah, it's funny now that you mention it, I really just flashed back and remember
Yeah.
sitting in the back of a courtroom in Newark, and there was a prosecutor, and she was in there putting on a presentation. She was using at that time, the projection
Yeah,
screen,
okay.
the
All right.
projectors. And I do remember, and I was just thinking that, like, wow, she wasn't just in the courtroom, you know, orally, giving her presentation. She had a display, and that really stood out to me. And wow, I never really thought about that until you brought it up. I do remember that presentation in court.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And especially your parents like still are thinking about that and by the way, congrats to your dad, 25 years in the FBI. That's pretty cool. So you get into high school and you're sort of enamored by mock trial. Like you ended up being, I think, the captain. Like, tell us a little bit about that.
That was really interesting. That was definitely a turning point in my life and my career. Up to that point, I was heavily involved in sports. I played baseball, basketball, football,
Yep.
and I actually was a really good springboard diver. I used to dive as
Wow.
well.
Okay.
And yeah, and I remember I believe it was my sophomore year of high school. We were getting ready to get out for school this one particular day. And on the intercom, they give their at the end of the day announcements, clubs they have for after school, things that happen during the day, whatever they would say over the intercom. We were just ready to get out of school. But I remember
Right.
they came over the intercom that day and they said, after school, we have basketball tryouts for the team I
Okay.
was already involved in essentially from the previous years. And they
Okay.
said, but this year, we're actually bringing our first mock trial team to Sprayberry High School.
Okay.
So they said, for anyone who's interested or had any interest in becoming a lawyer, come to this room
Wow.
and try out for the program. And I remember sitting in that chair, and I've been playing sports my whole life. And I had all my friends on the basketball team, and I planned on going to basketball tryouts that day. But I had to make a choice. I couldn't be at two places at the same time. I had to either choose to go to basketball practice or basketball tryouts rather.
Wow. What year was this in high school?
This was sophomore year, so I was about 14, 15.
Were you playing like varsity, JV?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had to make a decision, and I ended up going with mock trial. I really wanted
Wow.
to
Good for
be an
you.
attorney. They had like the debate team and I think like Model UN and things of that nature, but there wasn't anything directly for people who wanted to practice law in that fashion, or who wanted to take their legal career seriously.
Were there a lot of
Um,
people who were into that? Like, by the way, were like a lot of people jumping up and like, I want to do that? Like,
nah.
okay. I don't know. It just like it seemed I would think there would be actually because it's sort of a cool thing. Like you hear attorney when you're a high school kid and you're like, wow, that's interesting. Like I want to do mock trials. So maybe I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it was the school's first year that they were bringing that program there.
Yep.
So um there was it was a nice handful of kids. Definitely had to try out. There are some people who didn't make it. I mean, it was a nice group of kids, but
Really? What were the tryouts like?
I'm pretty sure that we had to read, certain like testimony and certain scripts, and you had to do some cross-examination questions, direct examination questions,
Great. Yeah.
things of that nature. So, um, but yeah, I definitely saw that as an opportunity. Years before, I had it in my mind that I did want to pursue a career as an attorney. So
Right.
this really just kind of
This was
fell
your
into my
chance.
lap.
This
This
was
was
your
my
chance.
chance.
So here's the big question. How many suicides does your basketball coach make you run? Do you know what suicide you did you
Oh,
know them? Yeah,
oh yeah.
I played a
Oh
little
yeah.
I played a little, believe it or not, back in my day, and those were not so much fun. But did you ever go up back to basketball, or what? Were you just done from there on?
No, I was done from there on.
Okay.
I really got, really involved in mock trial. And things just really clicked. Things really clicked with my coach. He really liked me, and he instilled a lot of confidence in me. He really just encouraged me a lot, and always like spoke highly of me. And
Oh, that's great.
yeah, and I think from
That's
there I
really
just really
important. That's so important. Yeah.
I really made a decision that, I really enjoy sports. I don't really see, as far as how far it's going to go, but I knew that at the age of 12, I wanted to be an attorney.
That's a lot of foresight, is that the word, to know that like you should be doing the mock trial rather than like playing basketball, which of course any high school kid like wants you want to get on the team, you want to have a good time, you want to like show off
Get the Letterman jacket. Yeah,
Letterman jacket, show off a little bit. So that's really determined of you, like your folks must have been so proud, and you were really on the right path from a while ago. So
thank you.
it all really connects, being at the courtroom, presenting to your parents, and then doing mock trial. What a cool thing. What was your favorite part about the mock trial?
My favorite part, and it may be my favorite part to this day, honestly, just being animated in the courtroom and
Okay,
putting on a show. I actually used to act as well.
I like that. All
I
right.
used to act, and it's something I enjoy. It's something I've always enjoyed, and it's interesting. And we can kind of go into, we'll touch on this later a little bit
Sure.
when we start talking about the firm I worked for. But they
Yep.
actually asked me if I had any acting experience during the interview, and I thought that was interesting as well. But
Yeah.
that was actually my favorite part, was really just like improvising, putting on a show, being animated in the courtroom. Myself personally, I'm pretty laid back and relaxed, and I'm a pretty chill guy. But that gives me an opportunity, a stage almost, to really be animated and be comedic at times. Of course, there's some
Okay.
serious matters, especially
Of course.
in the courtroom. There's going to be some serious matters, but it's also nice to bring a little light to the courtroom as well. So that was my favorite part, just being animated, being funny when appropriate,
Yep.
being creative, and being showing, putting on demonstrations and things like that.
George, let me ask you a question. What advice would you give somebody who gets nervous in front of a judge?
Hmm. I
Or
think
how would you say to relax? Like, how could somebody relax in court in front of a judge while they're waiting for their case to be called? What would you say?
I think one, you should take some deep breaths before going in there.
Yeah,
Two, I think honestly, I mean, one of the only things that can really help you in that situation is experience and consistency.
right.
Just keep going in front of judges, different courtrooms, different environments, and you'll just become a lot more comfortable and used to it. Um, and just having belief that everything's going to work out and be okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you could tell you're very confident. You don't mind being up there in court. I had a situation in my life, or a job rather, that I did go to court, and took me a lot to get up for it. You know what I mean? It was landlord tenant court, but it's sort of we do important things. We're always like playing with not playing, but we're always having an impact on some part of somebody's life. So you want to make sure you do the best you can. So you went to Georgia State University. You had a lot going on. Like you were doing a lot of different activities, it seems. So first, tell us about working in the legal department for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, so that was a great experience. Like I said, I've always been into sports. Football is like our family sport.
It's amazing.
Everyone in my family is big football fans.
Are you a fantasy football player?
Huge fantasy
Okay, so
football.
let me ask you this before you actually tell us the important stuff. Should Lawyer Stories have a fantasy football league next year? What do you think?
I think y'all are in trouble.
Oh, okay, all right.
I think y'all are in trouble. I'm a
We
big
have. I
fantasy.
think we have our first contestant.
Y'all are in trouble. I'm a big fantasy football guy.
Good,
When it's in season, I am there. I'm glued. I'm
good.
glued. I've got the red zone on. I might have
Oh,
three or four
dude,
teams. I might have three or four
the
teams
best
on.
words. We'll get back to this, but the best words of the Sunday are seven. Like, what is it? Hours of commercial
Yeah.
free football. That's like the 7 hours of commercial free.
7 hours
Thank
of
you.
commercial free football.
Thank you very
Exactly.
much.
Exactly. Yep.
All
And
right.
I actually think that I got into fantasy football from my colleagues in law school.
Okay.
Um,
Me too.
there
Actually,
were
me too. Yeah.
there was a group of kids in law school, and honestly I was pretty isolated and quiet in law school,
Okay.
but you know, they invited me to their fantasy football league,
Yeah.
and you know, I won a chip or two, you know, in that
There you
league,
go.
but it was just great. That was just a great way to kind of help break the ice and create some friendships. You know, I'm still really
Yeah.
cool with those guys, and we still play in the same leagues to this
Oh,
day.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So, yeah, that's totally cool. I think I'm almost ready for the season to begin now that my Celtics are out of the NBA end. But anyway, so tell us about. I'm really excited to hear about this opportunity you had with Minnesota. Like, how you were in Georgia though, right? Like, were you working virtually? How'd that all work?
No, so they were actually essentially flying me up there, and they were
Wow.
housing me. Yeah, they were housing me in a nice room. Um, and you know, that was a great opportunity. That was amazing, you know, just working in the legal department, the Minnesota Vikings. I've never been up to Minnesota before. You know, you know, I'm originally from New Jersey, but I've been in
Yep.
Atlanta most of my life. And so the way that would work would be, you know, during my breaks during college and in law school, because I did some time there in both college and law school. And um, I'm sorry, just 1 second. Had to click out of something.
Yeah. No
But
problem.
yeah, so yeah, they would bring me up there, and we would just work on various projects for the Vikings, the organization. At that time, actually, they were just building their brand new stadium, their
Really.
beautiful stadium with the I think they have the roof, the panoramic roof, and the see-through windows and everything. And they were just putting all that together. So that was a perfect time for me to be there. So we worked on things like the stadium deals, you know, use of their stadium with you know, with other people's stadiums, and being able to use another college stadium while that was being built,
Okay.
sponsorship agreements, reviewing contracts, reviewing any incidents, you know, that
Amazing.
happened at the stadium. Um, so it was a lot going on. I mean, that was an awesome experience, just being able to go there every day. Um, you
What was
know,
the best experience about working for the Minnesota Vikings?
the best experience with working for the Vikings would have to be the fact that one of my best friends growing up here, he actually got drafted by the Vikings at that same time.
Justin Jefferson?
No. His name is Jarek McKinnon. He plays for
Oh
the
yeah, dude, Jarek McKinnon. He's on Kansas City now, right?
yeah, he's with the
Oh,
Chiefs.
he
Yeah.
he lit it up in the playoffs last year. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. And
Wow.
I met Jarek in middle school. I met him.
Okay.
I think he sat in front of me in like an English class, and
Okay.
we've been really close since like the seventh grade.
Wow.
He's always been a really solid and really good guy. And actually, before that, we used to play Pee Wee football for the East Cobb Vikings. We wore purple and gold
No
with the
way.
helmet on. And I
All right.
remember when we got together when we got together in Minnesota, we just kind of reflected like, wow, like, you know, we used to play Pee Wee football for the East Cobb Vikings
Yeah.
wearing purple and gold, and look at how things work out. You know, I ended up working in the legal department here for the Minnesota Vikings, the professional team, and you got drafted as a running back
It's
to the
amazing, dude.
Minnesota
Yeah. No, I
Vikings. That
totally
was
know. I totally know who he is. He's probably been on my fantasy team like a couple times. Like that's you should have tried to be his like agent or something. That's what I would have been like. Hey man, like, do you need me to negotiate you a deal or what?
yeah. He was already doing his thing, and I'm
Yeah,
glad that he
yeah.
was all well taken care of. But that was just an amazing experience, just being
Cool.
able to, I would go into our legal department and work, from sun up to sundown.
Wow.
Putting in that work, and he would be, on another part of the same facility,
Right.
putting in work on the field, and afterwards, we could get off of work, and I would go hang out at his spot,
Yep.
play games against each other. And so that was just a great experience, just us from playing Pee Wee football to, really connecting in middle school and just being cool since. And now we were both there in Minnesota. So that was probably one of the most enjoyable things.
That's great. You guys still keep in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's my guy. He's a really good guy, really good
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah. They must have. I hope he. I mean, he really stepped it up too. I think in a couple of those games for Kansas City, right? Like this past year. So that's amazing. So they must really loved you there in Minnesota, man. They were flying you in, giving you a room. Like you were obviously doing good work, and you have a lot of good experience. So like you actually also had a legislative moving away from the sports. You had a legislative internship too.
Yes.
What was that all about in Georgia?
Yeah, so that was actually, as I was exiting college. There was a program called the Georgia Legislative Internship Program. That's what it was called. And so, they would have these legislative sessions at the Georgia Capitol, which is really right around the corner. It's walking distance to the college I went to. Georgia State is downtown. So it was literally, right down the block. And that was a great experience. We got to work with the legislators. I remember, working like, alongside Stacey Abrams at the time, like,
Yeah,
and, just being able to go there and help out the people, put together legislation, draft their bills, making sure all the meetings and everything went smoothly and was in order, and just
yep,
helping out the legislators with everything that they needed. And just being able to establish a bunch of connections with a bunch of other attorneys and aspiring attorneys. And I remember they did, a news article essentially on every intern.
yeah.
And, when it was my time, I kind of wrote out, the things that inspired me and motivated me at the time. And I was probably about 19 or 20. And I remember putting in the article, one day I'm gonna have my own law firm, the Graves firm.
Yeah,
And honestly, when I said it, you know, not that I didn't fully believe it, but I was kind of just putting something out there,
right,
almost like I just wanted to say something that was cool and interesting.
right.
But as I look back on it, here we are today.
Here we are today, man. And to get there, you've had like 4 or 5 jobs, so you have meaning like you have some good experience, like to bring you to this moment. So, like, what was your first job at a law school like? Do you remember your first job or two? What kind of experience did you get there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my first job out of law school. And once I passed the bar, and probably about a week or so afterwards, I was hired by a large firm out here. They do criminal defense. Just being in the courtroom, that's always been something that's been interesting to me. So that was a unique experience. I was able to get really familiar with the courtrooms and a lot of other attorneys who I was working alongside with. That was also, of course, like, drinking, what's the phrase, like trying to drink from a fire hydrant, essentially,
I
like
don't know.
basically just taking a lot in at one time.
Yep.
But just getting more comfortable, getting more used to it. And that was a really unique experience because I went straight through all of school. As far as, I didn't take any breaks. I went from high school directly into college. I graduated college. I was 21, graduated in May. And then I was
Wow.
21 entering law school. I graduated law school when I was 24. and I had this first job around that same age too. So it
Yeah.
was a lot to take in as a young man, but I got adjusted to it. I worked at the firm for about 3 years, made a lot of great connections. Um, and there were a lot of interesting things that were happening alongside the firm. And I kind of just realized like, hey, I can do this. I can do this as well. I had a couple of buddies that were, running their own firm and opening up their own firm as well. So I got to learn from them a lot. And it really just inspired me to really go out on my own.
So speaking about that, going on your own, like when did you know it was time to go out on your own?
Um, I think I was probably at the firm for about a year and a half, too. And I just figured that, there's something inside of me that tells me that I can do this on my own. I
Okay.
did have a lot of experience. I handled a lot of cases, and I saw how my buddies, for an example, another attorney friend of mine, Shannon Render, he went out on his own from leaving the same firm as well, and I
Okay.
just saw how he was able to do his thing and be successful, and I figured that I could do the same. So it just took some time to kind of build up that confidence and just make sure I had all the systems in place. It did take me a while for to write all my plans out and make sure that I executed everything correctly. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if there was a specific moment, but it was just the direction I feel like I was being moved in.
So what is your advice to somebody who says, "Hey, I want to go hang a shingle and go out on my own law firm"?
I would say, one, you have to stay in people's face. I would say you have to stay in people's face, and when I say that, I mean
I like it.
not in a obnoxious way or not in a overbearing way, but
Okay.
you have to constantly be available. You have to be consistent, and a lot of times nowadays is through social media.
It
You
is.
know, I mean, you can go to a mall and reach a certain amount of people with whatever you're doing, but
Right.
you can get on social media and reach millions upon millions of people. So I think it's just
If you're lucky, yes. But yeah.
right, 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 right,
But
right.
but I love
It may
that
not
because
be
there's the potential to
right.
reach millions of people. Like there's
Right,
no
that's right.
floor, there's no ceiling. I mean, you could just keep going and going and going. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. So I would say it's very important to just stay in front of people's faces. Like for an example, I know someone who they sell products online. He's actually a friend of mine now out in California. And I remember, I would see his products pop up on my timeline, for an example. And the first time it popped up, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool, but I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
That's
not really sold on it. The second time I saw it, I said, oh, okay, yeah, here he goes again. I mean, yeah, I mean, he's promoting his business.
yeah.
That looks cool. I mean, but I didn't really think too much about it. The third time,
Cha-ching.
I'm like, man, yeah, I see he's really, he's doing his
Yeah.
thing. Maybe I can just go visit the website a little
Right,
bit,
right, right. Well,
just see what's
that's
going
a whole
on.
sales theory because I have somebody helping me out like sometimes with stuff, and my creative director, and he's literally told me that people need to see things like 3 times in order, like online, in order to really want to buy it. So that's really interesting that you say that, and I think it's so true. Like you got to stay up front. You got to like let people know you're there, right?
Exactly. So I think about the fourth or fifth time, next thing you know, I'm ordering the products, and they ended up being amazing products, and it just shows that he really developed a brand. He really developed a reliable brand, and now everything that he puts out, it's just it's A+ material. So
That's
I think
awesome.
that's important, just be able to stay in people's faces. I know for a while I was off of social media, really through college and law school. I really didn't have any social media. I was kind of just off the grid and doing my own thing. But there was an attorney when I was graduating law school, and he was like, "Hey man, like you need to be accessible. You need to be people need to be able to reach you. So it's important to just be consistent with content and things of that nature, and just staying in
Yeah.
people's faces, because I may not have made that first purchase, you know, the first or second time I saw it. It took 4 or 5 times
Right.
before. So I think that's important.
Yep.
I think also, you know, before you go out and hang your shingles, it's important to, of course, like have, you know, some rainy day money saved, just have something put aside. You know, I think that's important, just to have a
Yep.
safety net, especially if first when you're starting out, things may be just a little bit slow until they begin to really snowball and pick up. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I think to a degree, you really just gotta get started and, you know, throw yourself out there. It's kind of like, you know, you're waiting to jump in, like you're like playing jump rope or something
Yeah.
like that, or double dutch. I mean, eventually you just have to pull the trigger, and you can always adjust and make things, you know, try to perfect things later. But a lot of people just never pull that trigger, and I think it's just important to just jump out and take that leap of faith.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, you know, just speaking of faith, I mean, you know, I'm not, you know, sure of anyone's else religious beliefs, but I'm very spiritual, and I have a very strong faith in God, and I think that's been carrying me a lot throughout my entire legal
Good.
journey. You know, I know a lot of people get nervous, or a lot of people get, um, you know, sometime in those high moments they may get a little nervous, but honestly, I mean, I really couldn't tell you the last time that I was nervous or felt nervous. And I think a lot of that is just having a strong faith in God, and that everything's going to work out and be okay. And I've been in situations, you know, that I thought were really difficult, or I may not be able to get out of, but I was able to, and God was able to bring me through those. So I think it's just important to just keep your faith, and that mindset's going to take you a long way.
That's awesome, man. I think that's unbelievable. And I know you just talked about putting yourself out there and don't be over here, but be on social media. With that, what I want to tell you is, I know like hundreds, maybe thousands of attorneys now from running and finding lawyer stories, and a lot of like there's a good Atlanta contingency. So if there's anybody there in Atlanta that you see on social media that I've connected with, that you see that we're featuring, or that you see that I follow, I'm more than happy to make a warm connection, because I think lawyers meeting lawyers is very important. It could be a referral source eventually, but I definitely want to connect you with eventually like some lawyers in the Atlanta area that I do know
Thank you.
and
Thank
have
you.
connected with. So please, use me as a resource, and I'll use you as a resource when I need a good fantasy football, like who should I play here or there, like what should I
For
do?
sure. For
No,
sure. I got
for
you.
sure, man. Like I want to be able to help you out with that, because I think you're really going places. You're very you're serious in the way you talk about your business. You love what you do. I could like feel the passion. It just it comes right out of you, and you have been at it for a long time. I mean, you really have kind of loved the law. Since you were a kid in that courtroom way back when your dad would bring you there. That's really cool. So tell us though, what like along the way, like what's been a big challenge of yours?
I think that a big challenge is that law school and this career, a lot of careers, that are similar, it requires a different level of sacrifice. I mean, I can't speak, for everyone else, but I know that in law school in particular, I really had to buckle down. I think that, of course, like in high school and even in college, I didn't really feel too challenged academically, to be honest. It wasn't too bad for me.
Yep,
Um, Law school, I felt like it was the first time that
it
I
was
felt
hard.
some type
Yeah,
of resistance. It was a little bit of a challenge,
that's
and
a good way to put it. Resistance. I like that.
yeah, and I think one challenge for me was just that level of sacrifice where, still being young, I'm in law school. I'm like 21 years old, and I have a bunch of buddies who still want to hang out. It's a beautiful day outside. People
Yeah,
are enjoying their summer in Atlanta, you know, going over here and doing this, and I mean, there were just many days where I just stayed in, I buckled down, I kept my head in the books. And I even had to tell some of my friends that I was very close with, I said I had to essentially sit them down and explain, hey, listen, it's not that, I don't want to hang out with you guys. It's not that I don't love you guys. But right now I'm at this particular point where I just have to really buckle down and sacrifice. So
Right.
unfortunately, I'm gonna have to turn down a lot of times where I get invited out, and there's a lot of things I had to sacrifice. I mean, just a lot of time and friendships and relationships and things of that nature.
Mhm.
Um, but it all paid off and it was all worth it. I always felt like when the time is right, I'll come back to all that. And but yeah, I mean, it just really required a different level of sacrifice. Working late at night, 11 p.m. sometimes early in the morning. Um, Working on Sundays. I mean,
Yep.
and I feel like it all trained me, for some of the things that I do now. So, but yeah,
Right.
it definitely just took a different level of sacrifice.
Do you have a mentor?
Yeah, I have a few. I have a few along the way. Uh, Daryl Cohen, Cohen Cooper Steppen Allen. He's a attorney here in Atlanta.
Okay.
He was a great mentor, and he really showed me how to really be light and really just bring a lot of light to the courtroom. And it's just not always about the black letter law and knowing all the loopholes and things within the law. That's important too. You have to study, be prepared, and do your research, but also just be personable, um, be likable, be relatable, be kind to other people. And he really showed me that um, no one is really a stranger. It's just a conversation away. And every time we would go out and get lunch, he would really show, and just talk with people.
I
And
like that. No one's a stranger, just a conversation away.
yeah, you're just really a conversation away. So, and you say hey to the person, make one little remark, and then the next thing you don't know what can spur out of that
You
relationship or
don't.
that conversation. So yeah, he was a great mentor. Daryl Cohen, Ronnie Mabra, he's another great attorney here. He was a great mentor. Stephen Cook was my mock trial coach, and he
Okay.
still looks out for me to this day. So I've had quite a few. I hope I didn't leave anybody out, but
Good.
those guys really helped me along the way.
That's awesome. Is there anything you'd like to share about like what you're doing with the Graves firm right now?
Yeah, so right now, I'm pleased that we're really opening up the PI side. For a while, I've been
Good.
doing crim defense, business law. I've been getting a lot of calls for personal injury for a while, and for a while, I would refer them to another attorney and say, hey, I'm gonna put you in contact with this attorney. And after a while, I did my research. I put in the hours, and a lot of people were telling me, say, hey man, you're turning away a lot of business. I was getting quite a few calls for it. So I said, you know what, let me just look into it, experience.
Was your case like bigger than the scope you wanted to handle, or were you getting a referral fee, or like what was the story with that?
Yeah, a lot of them just getting like a
Okay.
referral fee, or I mean, a lot of times I just was saying, I mean, hey, that's just not really at the time. It wasn't the area that I was
It wasn't
focused on.
feasible. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so but like I said, I mean, I put in hours, I did my research, so um, I've definitely opened up those doors. Got quite a few cases so far in that regard, so I'm really enjoying it.
Okay, that's great. Congratulations. I think it's so cool that you're out on your own and like doing your thing. So what's the best thing about being an entrepreneur so far?
I think the best thing about being an entrepreneur is just being able to control your day, just being
Yeah,
able to, you know, control your 24 hours.
love it.
When you wake up, when you go to sleep. Now, interestingly enough, it doesn't mean that you just get to sleep in.
No, 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 no.
In fact, if in fact, I think that as an entrepreneur, you're going to put in a lot more hours than someone who works a traditional nine to
Yeah,
five.
of
But
course.
I love just
100%.
being able to take control of my day. I don't have to check in with anybody if I need a little break or if I want to go, out to Jamaica for a little bit.
There you go.
Or I actually just got back from Mexico,
Awesome.
celebrating my birthday a little bit.
What
So
part?
I was in Tulum and Cancun.
Wow, happy birthday, man. That's amazing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I think that's probably the number one thing
But
is
make no mistake, when I got on the call with you in the evening, you were taking a call from a client, right? So it works both ways. I mean, you don't sleep in, But if you want to go to Tulum, sorry, I don't know, I've never been. I wish I knew how to pronounce the thing. I can't get away. You know what I mean? So anyway, but you take calls at night, like so you are dedicated, right, as an entrepreneur. So, and anyway, go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I want to be accessible to people. Yeah, I did take a call right before here. Just want to be accessible, want to be personal with the people. But yeah, I think that would probably be the best. And I've read that in quite a few books, whether it's The Psychology of Money or Rich Dad Poor Dad. A few books just spoke on that, just being able to, that's one of the greatest freedoms is just being able to do what you want, when you want, how you want to do it. So
Yeah.
that's probably my number one thing. And like I said, I mean, I really don't take any days off. I mean, I could take off the whole next week if I wanted to, but I mean, I enjoy what I do. So every
Yeah.
morning I'm up here at the same time, putting in the work, the
Right.
same long hours. As far as being an entrepreneur, there honestly aren't too many entrepreneurs in my family. We really come
Okay.
from a, working family.
Okay.
And I never really saw myself going out on my own. I always thought that, I had no issue with working a job, and
Yeah.
I was always a good worker at any job or law firm or anything like that that I've been in. But this was just the direction that I just felt like God was moving me in. Especially, like during the COVID, and when that hit and
Yep.
everything, it pushed me even further in that direction. I was already putting together plans of going out on my own prior to that, but that really just solidified and stamped things. Um, and I also just love being able to build my own brand, and something that I could really pass down. The Graves firm. I mean, that means a
I
lot.
love it.
My name means a lot. I really take pride in
Great.
being George
Yep.
Graves the third. My and of course getting my name, from my grandfather and father.
Yep.
They're two really respected guys in the state of New Jersey. So
It's great.
it's just great being able to have my own brand, and just be in control of my own destiny.
So I think that's amazing. So where do you see the Graves firm in 5 to 10 years? I mean, you talk about passing it down, or you're the third, and you have your own brand. What do you think?
Yeah, so right now, I'm really just handling everything on my own, and I'm enjoying it, just kind of starting pretty new. I do see the demand really increasing. I'm getting more and more calls each day. So pretty soon here, I'll be looking to expand the firm, bring in some more people, and eventually kind of get to more of you know, um, a managerial role and just being able to delegate from there.
You want
But
to be
really
the
just want
rainmaker, man. You want to go out.
exactly.
You want to go out and have lunches and be like, hey, like, you're Atlanta. You could be like, I'm trying to think of. Well, Matt Ryan's not in Atlanta anymore, but you could be like, hey, like, yeah, man. That's maybe you get like John Collins over in the Hawks as like a client or something. So you want to be like the rainmaker. Trey Young, he's another one there in Atlanta.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
so
totally
definitely
great.
just building and expanding and just continuing to grow. And I've been really blessed. I mean, it's off to a great start. I have a lot of great things up my sleeve and around the corner.
All right.
So I'm really looking forward to it. I've truly been like extremely blessed. I know a lot of people that can be a scary leap, to go out on your own, you know, especially when you've been used to working, at a traditional 9 to 5. But I'm blessed the way it's been going. And I actually heard from a separate podcast, like just one that I kind of just watch in my
Yeah.
leisure. A guy was kind of apprehensive about going out on his own and starting his own business as well. And his father told him, "Hey, just do your thing, and the phone's gonna ring." And that always kind of stuck with me. Like, I
Do
mean, it's
your
kind of like
thing.
it's a bit of a cheesy phrase,
I like it, man.
but do your thing, and the phone's gonna ring. And I'm blessed that that's been the case for the Grace firm.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on all your success so far. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the Lawyer Stories community? Did we leave anything out?
Did we leave anything out? I think we covered it all.
Good.
My one of my just big motivations, you know, um, since I was a kid, I always just knew, like, I heard, doctors and lawyers make quite a bit of money. I'm gonna
Yep.
be honest, that was a motivation. I'm not gonna sit here and give you like the politically correct answer.
No,
And
why not?
I wanted to get out and change every single individual in the world, and I have been able to help a lot of people out and get a lot of cases dismissed, a lot of cases resolved. I've had a lot of clients cry, tears of joy, and give me a great big hug once they got their whole case or issue put
Yep.
behind them. And that's a great feeling. It's great being able to relieve someone's tensions when a lot of people are, maybe panicking or stressed out. And I'm a very chill and relaxed guy. And I want to get that person on the same level as me and just being able to relieve their tensions and stress. But, just initially, a large motivation was for me to make money, not for myself, but I've always wanted to be able to take care of my family.
It's
Um, you
amazing.
know, I don't have a wife just yet or kids, but I've always been looking forward to it. And I've always just kept that up in my mind as a kid that, one day I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna be the head of my household. I'm gonna be the
There you
leader
go.
and I'm gonna take care of everybody.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
that's something that's really fueled me and really just gets me up every morning and just preparing for that day.
Wow. Dude, George, you are an impressive young gentleman. So glad to have you on this podcast. So cool for you to be part of the Lawyer Stories community. I really appreciate everything you shared today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, of course. And stay right there. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. George Graves the third out of Atlanta. Wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourself. Cheers.